this is prospecting. And let me just ask you guys, I'm gonna unmute here. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. What's the difference between prospecting and marketing? Because we're gonna talk about marketing on Wednesday, but prospecting and marketing are different. They are both parts of lead generation, but how do you understand what prospecting is versus other kinds of lead gen? Anybody? I'd love to have somebody unmute and just kind of give me your impressions of what prospecting is.
Looking for new business.
Looking for new business, how?
Calling, talking to people.
Okay, so you're hitting it there, Ariane. Let me just tell you the word I was looking for. Looking for business actively and even proactively, right? Because if the way I think about prospecting, I tend to think like in the gold rush days in California when they first recognized that there was gold out there, and people just flocked. And you have these images of sort of the guy at the side of the stream with the pan in the water, and he's sifting through the water and the mud, and he's looking at these rocks and he's determining which ones of these are gold and which ones are not gold. And you got to get a lot of mud on your hands in order to find gold if you're going to find it that way. Prospecting is a little bit like that. Prospecting is active. It's kind of, you're getting your hands dirty. You're proactive. It's a little bit messy. You're touching a lot of folks. Some people are going to turn into business. Some people are not going to turn into business, but it's different from marketing, right? And we'll talk more about marketing on Wednesday, but marketing is more attracting business to you. It's kind of getting your brand out there. And we'll talk about the fact that you're going to market your brand when you're looking for sellers to work with. You're going to market your inventory when you're looking for buyers to work with. You're going to market your relationship with a lot of buyers when you're looking for sellers to work with. So there's this kind of sequential thing between marketing and prospecting. But the thought is here that prospecting it's active. It is focusing on getting your hands dirty a little bit. And so every single Ignite class starts with this: what do top agents do every day? They work on growing their business. They work on running their business. Prospecting is a lead generation activity for buyers and sellers, right? That's what it is. So if you look at this visual, this is the visual of, kind of the lead generation model at the very top. And if we look at this funnel looking device actually as a funnel, if this is our sell funnel, then prospecting and marketing are the two activities that make up lead generation that capture leads and get them into our world. And we've said sometimes in the first half of Ignite that the language that we're using to how we're going to organize our database is people that we call leads are people that I have a valid way to reach you. I don't have two-way communication going with you yet, but I have a legitimate, honest to God, good way to reach you. And you're receiving the information from me, but you just haven't reached back out. It's kind of, I know where there is a potential relationship and I'm trying to nurture it. And contacts is what we're calling people when we've got two-way communication going and we're building rapport over time. And so the important thing to think about of lead generation is to debunk any myths that you have in your head about what lead generation is, because I've been doing this long enough that I know that many, many times when people hear the phrase lead generation, what pops into their heads, generally speaking, is one type of lead gen. Usually it's kind of a cold call environment where people are picking up the phone and calling people. And that is a form of lead generation, one of many, many, right? But, networking is lead generation. Building an audience online is lead generation. Blogging and creating written content for people to read is a form of lead generation, right? Anything that you do that kind of gets you to get into a relationship with somebody, and it's prospecting and it's marketing is lead gen. We're going to cover both of those over the next couple sessions. Once they get into this funnel, then we nurture those relationships over time and we cultivate those. And we do that through, our smart plans and all that way that we're going to stay engaged and provide information that's valuable to them so that we earn the right to stay in their world so that when they need what we do, we're there for them. And then once that determination has been made that they need us, and I shared this with the group out at 10 o'clock, we know statistically what the numbers are. 6% of the population will be engaged in a real estate related transaction this year. That's a general rule, but it's based on the fact that 65% of the population typically become homeowners, 35% typically stay renters. And of the 65% that become homeowners over the course of their lifetime, the average most common frequency of moving is once every 10 years. So if sort of 6 or 7 people are let me do it this way. If 65 people are going to be homeowners and 10% of them are going to move this year, then what's 10% of 65? It's about 6 or 7, right? That's the number. About 6 or 7% of the population is going to buy a home, sell a home, invest in a home this year. The other part of the population, 3 or 4, are going to be in a rental transaction this year. How do we stay in their life so when the time comes, they choose to do it with us? And when that time comes, we get them to an appointment. We take that active listing, we get it under contract, we bring it to closing. This is the lead generation model that we shared in the first half of this course, but we revisit again because it's bringing us right to the top of the list here. How are we going to fill the funnel? And so there is this idea that says when you're marketing and that when you're prospecting, the message and your methodology kind of have to be in sync with each other. What is the message that I'm going to use in my prospecting or in my marketing that's going to get you to react? If I'm going fishing, what kind of bait do I think you're going to take? And it depends what kind of fish I'm going for, right? Because some fish they're going to want to have, these very elaborate, shiny lures that make it look like a water bug on the top of the water that causes them to go up and reach for it. Some fish are looking for a very specific kind of bait on a hook. And when they see that, they're going to take that. We got to know what kind of fish we're going for to decide what does our bait look like? What does the message need to be in order to get their attention? And once you've made some decisions about what the message is going to be, and it matches your market here, it matches the fish that you're looking for, right? What could you do to create what we say, make an offer or a call to action? I'm going to put my message out there in a way that prompts you to take action. So let's think about what typical calls to action would be in certain prospecting that you've seen people do. Anybody have any examples of a call to action that you think would be something that people would offer that would prompt people to reach back out? Any ideas? How about something like this? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner in town. I don't know if you're aware, but every single year, the town opens up a period of time where if you have any questions about the value of your home from a tax assessment standpoint, if you think that you're being property taxed on the value of your home that's not accurate, there is a methodology where you can kind of go and appeal that. And if you'd want, I'd certainly be happy to come out and tell you what I think your home's value is worth so that you can make some decision as to whether or not you might have a basis to think about a tax appeal. That's an offer. And I know some agents, especially one in the Montclair market where I used to work, where she made it her business. First of all, Montclair is a very highly taxed town. And she grew up in town. She lived there forever. She knew everybody. But every year, she would just offer anybody who wanted to have a current valuation on their home so that they could see what she believed the market was, so they could decide whether or not they might have basis for a tax appeal. It was a service that she provided. It was the message that she put out there. It was an offer that she made, and it caused people to reach back out to her, right? Once you decide what that message is going to be, excuse me, and it matches what your market is going to respond to, and you've got an offer that you think would be something, now we've got to decide on the method. How am I going to get it out there? Am I going to email that message to you? Am I going to pick up the phone and call you? Am I going to knock on your door? Am I going to put it on an Instagram offer or a Facebook offer? Am I going to put it on TikTok, whatever that is? I don't know. The thing that you've got to think through is, what pond would the fish be in that I want to catch? And what do I mean by that? If I'm looking for a specific kind of client and I've decided on a message that I think would resonate with, what's the distribution channel that they're going to see it? If you want to get a message to a certain demographic, you're going to have to think about which channel are they on. Increasingly with all the myriad of new social channels, a lot of people are not on Facebook anymore of a certain age. I know my daughter and a lot of her contemporaries are long off Facebook. So if I was trying to find a 20-something and I was going to craft a Facebook ad, probably not going to get the same response as if I crafted an ad on Instagram, which is probably where they're going to be. If you want to get in front of my mother, who's going to be 91 in December, I can promise you that none of those channels are going to work. You're going to probably put it in an old snail mail letter and mail it to her because that's what she reads, right? Thinking about what's the channel that the people that I want to get in front of, what's the channel that they're using, and making sure that the way we get that message to them is in alignment with the way that they're going to receive it. It's something that we have to be thoughtful and purposeful about. And it all comes down with knowing who we're looking for, right? It all comes down with that. Now, what we say is your business should be prospecting based, but marketing enhanced. That's why we lead with prospecting. The base of the triangle is prospecting. And the reason for that is that it is just something that you can control. It is more quickly going to lead you to opportunities because you're out there, you're prospecting, you're getting your hands dirty, you're touching it yourself, and you're not relying on other people to make some decisions about being attracted to you. You're going out there and you're finding it. However, marketing does enhance your prospecting. It makes your prospecting more effective and more impactful. Give me an example, someone, of how marketing could enhance your prospecting efforts. Anybody have an idea as to how that could work? In what way could marketing enhance your prospecting? What do you think, Emily? What do you think would be a way that marketing could enhance your prospecting efforts?
You want me?
Yep.
Hi.
Hey.
It spreads the word to more people, I guess, and I guess if
it does, that's definitely what it does. It creates a little background awareness of who you are, right?
Right.
How would that make your prospecting easier or better? If people know you when you show up, do you think you'd have a better chance of connecting with them or a less better chance?
I'd probably have a better chance if I'm prepared also at the same time.
Well, all of that, right? So if you're marketing into a specific area, first of all, one of the things it can do is it can give you a reason to call. Maybe you're going to send out a newsletter, and you're going to, once that newsletter hits, about a week later, you may follow up and say, hey, it's Emily. I just wanted to let you know I sent out a newsletter to you. Did you get it? Do you have any questions about any information that's in there? It gives you a ready-made reason to call because you've already sent something and you're following up on it. That's
true.
one way
Yes.
that it enhances your marketing. And then the other thing is, if they get your marketing piece and they see that and they like what they see, and they see your open house directional signs in town when you're out there, if they see that you've got a sponsorship of a activity in the town, and maybe you've got a page in the local high school play directory, or you've sponsored a little league team, or who knows what, suddenly what happens is they see you again and again and again, and they feel like they know you. They don't know you personally, but you're not a stranger, right? You're somebody who's active and involved. And then when you show up prospecting through any of the other channels, we're going to talk about a couple key prospecting strategies today. Then when you show up, you're not a stranger anymore. I use the analogy of planting flowers. If you spend a lot of money on an heirloom plant or a beautiful plant, and you put it in the ground and you don't prepare the soil to receive it, those roots aren't going to spread very well. If the pH condition in the soil is not right for that plant and we haven't corrected that, if there's not nutrients in the ground, that plant is going to struggle, right? And so to some extent, your marketing gives you reasons to follow up. In some way, it prepares the soil so that when you do follow up, you have a better chance of thriving in that relationship because you already are a known commodity and it's kind of prepared the way for you, right? So lots of different ways you can prospect, right? And this would be, if you go to the participant guide If you download the participant guide where I showed you in the beginning of this class today in the elementals part, I believe it's page 4 in your guide, that it just kind of goes through lots and lots of different techniques. Here's 10. Phone or face-to-face, right? And we could call listings, meaning without agency, people that are looking to sell their house, but they don't have representation. Those would be the for sale by owners. Those would be people that tried to sell their house without success and their listing expired, right? We could go by phone or face-to-face to this notion of circle prospecting. What is a circle prospecting? Well, circle prospecting is the idea of kind of drawing a circle on the map and talking to everybody inside that circle. And maybe we define that circle based on an event that's happened. Maybe there's a new listing that came to the market. And we're going to say the address of that listing was 125 Main Street. I'm going to draw a radius circle around that. And I want to talk to everybody inside that circle because I want them to know that that listing is there. Because if they know anybody who'd be interested in moving into town, I want them to refer that person to me. But here's the other reason. Research tells us that whenever a new property comes on the market, there typically are, a couple of other people in the community who are thinking about coming on the market themselves. And then suddenly when they see that there's somebody out there, their mindset is, oh no, I better hurry up and get my house on the market because I don't want my buyer to buy his house. And the first one in usually speeds the rest of them up. And so there was actually years ago an old Mike Ferry script that says something along the lines of, did you know that whenever a new listing comes on the market, there's usually 2 or 3 people in the neighborhood who are looking to come on the market right behind them. And I'm just curious if you're that person, right? That's kind of an older script, but it does pick up on a really legitimate idea that it's useful to kind of think about when we see new listings coming on. Who else is out there who's thinking about it that I can get in front of so that I can be the one who brings their house to market? So circle prospecting is a strategy. We circle prospect neighborhoods, apartment complexes, recently sold listings, recently listed properties. The scripts that I love for recently sold are the ones that I call the good news script, meaning I want to find a recent sale in a neighborhood where the seller had a terrific outcome. The house didn't stay on the market very long. It went under contract pretty quickly. They got a really strong offer. They accepted either full price or very close to it and maybe even over. Our market right now is so emotionally charged up that a lot of things are just flying off the shelf above ask. And that's a really good story. And so what I might do is circle prospect, draw a pin around that recent sale, talk to the neighbors around it and say, hey, it's Hal from Keller Williams Realty. I have an unusual opportunity. You may think I'm a little crazy for even talking to you about this, but have you thought about selling your home this year? The reason why I'm bringing that up is because your neighbor just closed on his sale, was only on the market for 2 days. He got $75,000 over his asking price. This market in your neighborhood right now has so much demand that anybody who's thinking about it is going to probably have a really good outcome. Right, that's a circle prospecting script already recent sold. So circle prospecting is a strategy of lead generation, community outreach, doing charity work, volunteer work, getting to know people through organizations where you've got a mutual interest. And again, a lot of these organizations have rules about no solicitation, and they many ways should. We don't join the club so that people can solicit us. But what happens is when you join this affinity group and you start to build friends and relationships, then when the time comes that they need the services of a realtor, you're already in their inner circle because of this common out connecting point that you have. I remember one time an agent friend of mine was very incensed that she was going to leave the country club that she and her husband joined because they joined the club so that they would get into relationships to do business. And what they found was he was a financial planner. She was a real estate agent. A lot of the members of the club themselves were real estate agents and financial planners. And she didn't feel that it was as a good source of business as she had hoped. And I said, well, tell me about that decision because it's a great club. The golf course is great. She says, I don't play golf. I don't like to eat at the restaurant there. I don't think the chef's all that good. I don't swim. I don't play tennis. I'm like, then you really have no business joining a club, country club. That isn't the thing you should have done. What do you like to do? That's the organization to join, right? Key relationships. Think gatekeepers. think who are the people that are in the pathway of people that need to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Corporations, builders, banks, investors. I like to think even broader than that. Think, if I was going to try to get in the pathway of somebody who was going to sell their house, and I wanted to focus maybe on people that were downsizers. They've been in the big house. It's time to downsize it to a smaller house. And who would be in their lives that could influence their decision to hire me? And I start to think through that, and I'm like, well, a lot of times these folks have investment planners, and the decision to sell their house is just part of an overall investment strategy. Maybe I get into a pathway, a relationship with financial planners, maybe estate attorneys who are helping families to dispose of a property when someone passes away. If I can get into a relationship with those estate attorneys, they can be a source of business, right? So who are those key relationships that you're going to prospect, that you're going to reach out to, that you're going to nurture, right? And get them into your database. You could meet people through teaching and speaking opportunities. I love the idea of hosting seminars, and you can do it right here on Zoom, right? Because I know that getting people together indoors is complicated these days. But a first-time homebuyer seminar or a seller's seminar, and even if people have done it before and they think they know the ropes, I can tell you, you ain't never sold a house in a worldwide pandemic before. And we have to think about how do we do things differently so that we protect your safety, so that we can provide all the access that we need to, but it's different now than it was 5 months ago. And doing a seminar where people can come to learn can put you in the pathway of people that need to sell their homes, right? Meals. What are the meals, right? Invite people to dinner, right? Just kind of have people get together, door-to-door canvassing, networking events, having a booth or a kiosk at a different event. A very good friend of mine used to always have a booth for her business, her real estate business, at wedding expos. Because what she believed was people are going to get married and they're going to need a place to live. And she wanted to kind of get in front of them and build that relationship early in the game, right? When you're thinking about getting married, that's when you're going to start to think about me as well. I'm going to put you in my database and I'm going to nurture that relationship over time. So when you do finally get married, I'm going to congratulate you. You're going to need to have a place to live. Maybe you'll rent, maybe you'll buy, but I'm going to be in your world at that time, right? Walk-ins, not as much a source of business these days. It used to be that when brick and mortar offices were more utilized than they seem to be today, that people would actually drive to the real estate sales office and walk in. That was largely based in the days when real estate agents controlled the data, where the only way you'd find out about a listing is I had it in a book and you had to come to me for it. Now the inventory is just so accessible online that walk-ins are not as useful a source of leads for agents today, with the exception of certain niche markets, beachfront markets, ski communities. People do sometimes walk into places like that to look for opportunities. But for the most part, number 10, the walk-ins kind of disappeared a little bit. But there's just lots and lots of different ways that you can prospect. And here's what I find best practice is. Kind of get to know yourself and your style. What do you like to do? And, what are you good at? Right? Are you good at meeting people and kind of schmoozing and networking? Are you good at, on the phones with people? What's your style? What I'd encourage you to do is, you're going to need more than one approaches in your prospecting. You're going to need to fill the funnel in more than one way, but you probably should master one or two of them. You're not going to have the ability to master every single lead generation style that's out there. Find a few that you're good at, but master a couple of them. Master one or two. Chris Suarez, who's a legend in the Keller Williams universe, he runs the Experian team out of Portland. And we've had agents in our franchise group that are part of his expansion team. What Chris tells people is, look, there's a million different ways that you can prospect. And I don't care whether you're going to focus on open houses or for sale by owners or expireds or whatever your thing is. Once you've decided what that channel is going to be for you, then I want you to double down. I don't want you to become world-class at that, right? That's the way I want everyone to think about prospecting. For me, what I found was it was open houses. If I can get face-to-face at an open house, I found I was able to convert better than any other lead source And once I learned that, then I doubled down and I did lots and lots of open houses, and I didn't focus so much on some of these other things that didn't seem to work as well for me, right? So we're going to do a deep dive on a couple prospecting methods, and not a super deep dive. We're going to unpack a lot of these throughout the remaining 9 sessions of Ignite. And then the course that follows this Ignite course is the Lead Gen 36-12-3 course, where we do an even deeper dive on some of these. But let's talk about a couple key ones. These are tried and true methods of prospecting that we know work. And you know what? People have lived before us, and when we learn from their efforts, it just puts a shortcut into our learning. We know door knocking works. We know agent-to-agent referrals work. We know open houses work, and we know social media works. So let's unpack each of these real quick, and feel free to jump in and stop me if you have any specific questions, because I'm going to move a little bit quickly. Door knocking. Here's a couple things about door knocking you should know. Towns have some certain rules around that, so find out what the rules are in your town. Is door knocking allowed? Is it allowed with a permit? If you need a permit, how much does it cost? How long is it good for? Is it not allowed at all? Because if door knocking isn't allowed, then I don't want you to go door knocking, right? I don't want you to be breaking the rules. It's the same thing with the do not call list. If people are on the do not call list, I don't want you to solicit them. But when door knocking is allowed, and in many communities it still is, what we got to figure out is, what would your approach be, right? How are you going to approach folks? What are you going to say when you get there? Right? Are you going to open, the person answers the door and you're going to just stand there and say, hi, I'm Hal, and I'm a real estate agent in the neighborhood, and I want to be your real estate agent for life, and I just want to kind of get out there and meet everybody and start to build relationships. There is some script around that. But I think the thing that you gotta think about is, what would be the value of the person who answers the door to have you show up on their front step saying, would you be my friend? What are you bringing to the relationship? Maybe I'll be your friend. Maybe I'll stay in touch with you. What's in it for me, right? So better scripts, I think, or better approaches is if I can show up at the door, not asking for you to do anything for me, other than for me to provide some value to you and ask if I would be able to stay in touch again. What could I give you? Is it market-related information? What could I give you that would give you an opportunity to feel like you got value from me? And then I could nurture that relationship over time. Certainly, one of the things that you may have to do is remember to ask for the business, right? When you get to the door, you've got to ask, let people know, what is your reason for being there? Ultimately, the most important thing that you want to find out is, do they have a real estate related need? We've got to ask that question somewhere in that exchange, right? And, at the end of the day, advance, we got to add contacts into the database, right? We're going to advance this relationship. So what's your approach going to be in the door knocking? What are we going to do when we get there? How are we going to ask about their interests and about their real estate needs? And are we going to advance that relationship by putting them in our database and staying in touch with smart plans? Natalie has a question in chat. Would the information be given by Village Hall for door knocking? Meaning, is your question, would your office be able to tell you whether or not the towns allow door knocking? Is that your question?
That's correct.
They're
so
actually,
I don't know. I mean, usually because you mentioned permit, which would be similar to what Village Hall would have. So that's why I was asking.
Oh, Village Hall meaning the town hall. Yeah.
Village Hall Town Hall, right?
People live in a village, so I was thinking Village Square.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, that's where you do it. You would actually go. And now, look, years ago, we used to have in the offices just a printout of what the rules were. The same with sign rules and things like that. I don't know whether we have that in the office anymore, the same way that we used to. But it's just simply going to the town and asking, And if you call the town, I always just like to start at the town clerk. Note to self, the town clerk is a really good person to get to friend, right? Make friends with the town clerk. Get to know their name.
Yes, agreed.
Because they can grease the skids on a lot of things. Be really polite if you go into the town office building because you need to conduct some business. Chime in and say hello, let a face and a name get connected. But start there, and they'll be able to let you know what the rules are. I will tell you this: increasingly, towns are beginning to lock down door knocking. they're really beginning to put prohibitions up against door knocking. I think there's been so many people that have just been just so pushy and aggressive when they're door knocking that a lot of towns are starting to say, look, we don't want that anymore. So if door knocking is not a thing that you can't do, then do something different. But a lot of towns do allow it. Here's another one, agent to agent referrals. And what we know is that if you look at sources of how people find the agent that they use, number one source is going to be, I already knew the agent. I was in their database. We have a relationship. Maybe I'd been recommended by a friend, but 80% of the time, it's typically that the person was already known to the agent or by the agent. But a lot of the other sources are, agent to agent referrals are a really good one, right? And there is the technology in Command, and I'm just going to very, very quickly show you where to find this. There is the technology in Command that allows you to look for what we call migration patterns and start to figure out, how could I build a relationship with the agents who are doing business in the markets that are sending customers to my town? What does that look like? Well, I'm going to go to my Command account. And once again, I'm going to be trust that you're going to be able to see this. But when I go to Command and I click on the red KW and it opens up the menu, I'm going to go down here to Referrals. And when I click on it, it's going to open up my network of agents that I have a referral partnership with, right? Agents that I build a relationship with so that I can stay in touch and send business to them or get business from them. And here, what I want you to do is I want you to go to this mapping feature. This is one of the coolest little gems in Command as far as I'm concerned. When you go to the map, what happens is it defaults to the production tab, meaning it's looking at an area based on who's doing the most business. I'll come back to that in a second. I want to hit this drop down and I want to look for referral patterns. And I'm going to click on it. And now here's what you find. It's going to default for me to Ridgewood, New Jersey, because I have actually 5 different ways to get into Command based on the 5 different market centers where I train. I happen to be logged in at the moment through my Ridgewood portal. But if I change the town to the town where I live, let's go back in here, and I live in Westfield, so I'm going to type Westfield in here. And you're going to see that this is tied to Google Maps, and there is in fact a Westfield, New Jersey, but there's also one in Indiana and Massachusetts and Wisconsin and New York, so pick the right one. I'm going to pick Westfield, New Jersey, and you see these lines beginning to emerge. These are referral patterns, migratory patterns. And when we look here, you click on this box, this is leads going out, right? When people leave Westfield, what are the most common places that they're currently going? And this is data that's been collected only through the transactions that have been posted in Command. This is not data that comes from the census. This is not data that tracked any other way. It says agents are putting their deals into Command, and we're starting to aggregate all of that data. Where are they going to? And here's what we see, interestingly enough. Number 1, people leave Westfield to go to Summit. Number 2, to Jersey City. Number 3, Carlsbad, California. Who would have thought that? Number 4, San Diego, California. Who would have thought that? Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 3% of all the of sales where people left Westfield, 3% of them went to Fort Lauderdale. Incoming leads. When people are selling their house to move to Westfield, where are they coming from? We switch this little toggle over here to incoming, and you start to see the lines form. Number 1, Summit. Again, Summit and Westfield seem to be doing a lot of back and forth. Number 2, New York. Number 3, Hoboken. Number 4, Jackson, New Jersey. Number 5, Augusta, Georgia. 6, Snellville, Georgia. 7, Newnan, Georgia. I never even heard of these cities. My point is this. Would it be good to build a relationship with somebody in some of these cities so that if they're selling a house there and people are moving into my community, that they know me and they can refer to me to help them purchase a house when they get here? Would that be something worth doing? Say yes, right? So how would you do that? Well, I'm just going to pick a town. And I'm doing this in real time, so I don't know what I'm going to find. But let's look at Augusta, Georgia. 2% of the people who come into Westfield, come from Augusta, Georgia. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to my drop down here. I'm not looking at referral patterns anymore. I want to find who are the Augusta, Georgia agents. And specifically, what am I looking for? I'm looking for agents who are representing sellers because they're selling their Georgia house to move here into my market. So I'm going to look for Augusta, Georgia listing agents. I'm going to change this back now to production. I'm going to search the map for where? Augusta, A-G-U-S-T-A. I'm going to pick Augusta, Georgia, not Maine. And now I'm getting the list of Keller Williams agents who are in production in that market. And each one of these little bubbles represents a group of agents. And so I'm going to take a look at the map, and maybe here's Augusta right here. Maybe I'm going to go right here in this first bubble of 75. And I'm going to click on it. And that list of agents on the right is going to start to change. And now, what am I looking for? Well, I said I wanted to find a good listing agent. So I'm going to change and filter this list, not by all 100 agents in random order. I want to sort this list by who are the listing agents. So I click on this. I click on listing agent and it reorders this list. Now, maybe what I'll do in this little toggle here is to say, I don't want just somebody who's closed one listing. I'd like somebody who's really good at this. I want them to have at least, how many listings sold in the last 12 months? I don't know. Let's change this. Listings sold in the last 12 months. Let's say 12, one a month, and see if anybody meets that cut line. So I apply that filter and my list of 100 agents drops down to 1. Okay, I probably want to have more people to choose from than 1. Antonio certainly looks like he's doing a lot of business. Maybe I'll just narrow this down. Maybe instead of doing 12, let's do 6. Again, I'm doing this in real time. I don't know what's back here yet. We're going to change that to 6 closings. And now I've got 2. Okay. So I've got Tonda and I've got Antonio, and I'm going to look and check these agents out. And I go to Tonda's page here and I see what? I see she's closed 111.5 transactions. 46 of them were listings. And I get to read a little bit about her and her bio. And maybe she's a person that I want to get into a relationship with. And if she is, what do? I go back here to my command account and I say, okay, Tonda, I think that maybe you're somebody I need to know. And I click this little button here, right? And this little button here sends an invite for me to connect with Tonda. And I can put a little message in here. Hey, Tonda, my name's Hal, and I'm an agent in the Westfield market. It seems to me that there's folks that are leaving from your market area and moving to ours. I would love to be your go-to person if you come across anybody who meets that need. I send that invitation to her, and now they show up into my command network of referral agents. Is this something that's worth doing? Yeah, I really think it is, because what we know is that referral agents, agent-to-agent referrals, account for a lot of the business that people get when it doesn't come out of their database. I would nurture that, right? I would prospect those agent relationships, and then I would stay in touch with them in an ongoing manner using smart plans. You know, I practiced, I showed you command referrals, open houses. Again, we're going to do a whole class on open houses next week, I think, or it actually might be Friday. I have to look, but I'm not going to do a deep dive here. But open houses, really, it's about not leaving it to chance, not just throwing a sign up on 15 minutes notice and hope that people come in. I've got to be prepared. I've got to choose my open house strategically. I've got to make sure that I've invited neighbors and guests and done things to market that open house so that the turnout is guaranteed. And in a COVID environment where we had to do everything and more online, it took even a little bit more planning and preparation. How would I host an open house in an online environment? How would I get that message out? What platform would I use? Would I use Zoom? Would I use Facebook, right? The preparation is really important. And then the prospect part of it is actually at the open house, building relationship, talking to people, starting to get engaged. The pursue is after that open house is over. How do I follow up in a consistent way so that I can convert that to an ongoing opportunity for me going forward. Open houses are one of the tried and true ways, and one of the most, one of the ones we focus on most in Ignite. We used to focus heavier on for sale by owners and expireds. And we used to focus a lot, excuse me, a little tickle in my throat. We used to focus on that a lot more in bold and other classes as well. And the reason why we've moved not away from that exclusively, because there's still business there, but we've moved into things like open houses in your database, simply because it's a better source of easier conversion. For sale by owners are there, they need our services, but they're hard to convert. In any event, we'll do a class on open houses coming up, and I'd encourage you to kind of follow up on that when we do that. Always stay top of mind, right? Once we get people in to our database, whether they be another agent for a referral or they be any other kind of contact, we just have to put them in our database, put them in a group that makes some kind of sense. Do we tag them appropriately? And then how are we going to cultivate this relationship systematically? Again and again and again. Man, I got a little tickle today. I'm hopefully going to survive it for the next 10 minutes. I think I will. Social media. We know that social media works, but it only works if you use it purposefully, right? And so how do we get purposeful about social media? Well, one of the things that we've got to do is we've got to select the channel. Who am I looking for? What channel will they be on? And how do I make sure that the message and the method are in sync, right? Once I decide what channel I'm going to use, how am I going to seek for folks? What am I going to post? How am I going to try to find people? Am I going to do searches in social media channels to find people that live in certain towns? Am I going to do searches in social media channels to find people that have certain affinities that I want to connect around? What is my message going to be? What am I going to post? Is the stuff that I'm going to post going to be stuff that you find value in, that you're looking forward to my post? Because make no mistake, you know, social media channels are social channels, which means the algorithm is built around putting you in front of people more frequently if the perception is, according to the algorithm, that the information that you're going to send is going to cause them to engage. Because if the information that you're going to put out there doesn't cause them to engage, then what social media like Facebook is going to do is going to say, hey, you know what? This content's just not that good. I'm not going to put you in front of as many people. And so what would it be that would cause you to engage? Am I going to put something out there and ask questions and ask you to respond back? A friend of mine who's a real estate agent for another company down in Mercer County, every single day, he puts all kinds of stuff that's just designed to get people to engage. He puts crazy pictures up there and says, hey, caption this picture. And people just kind of plug in and they have fun with that. And they come up with really creative, you know, things to say. Or he'll put poll questions out there. What do you think the Yankees' chances are of winning the World Series this year? And lots of people engage because he's inviting them to. And when he's doing that, that's social media algorithm is saying, hey, you know what Joe is posting, people seem to respond to. So when he posts something again, I'm going to get him in front of more people, right? That's strategic. And one of the things that you got to think about is, are you putting content out there that causes people to engage, or are you pushing information that they look at it and they learn something, but there's no need to respond back? Not a good way to do it, right? And again, lots and lots of classes out there on how to use social media from a prospecting standpoint. But what will happen is you will generate business. If you guys are not on some of the social channels that are focused on real estate agents, and I'm thinking ones like Lab Coat Agents, Nick Baldwin and Tristan Amadura, who are running that channel, probably the largest social media channel geared towards agents in the world, as far as I know. I think they're up to 120 or 140,000 agents. And it's funny because I remember years ago, Nick is a friend of mine, and when he was telling me that he was going to do this, we were actually at the airport getting ready to go and fly to a Keller Williams event. I think it was family reunion somewhere. And he came up to me all excited and he's like, I want to tell you about what I'm doing. And I'm going to set up this social media group and we're going to have this group for agents and I'm going to call it Lab Coat Agents. And I want you to join. I've only got, you know, like, I don't know, it was a very low number of people so far. I'm like, what the hell is a lab coat agent? Well, it's about the science of real estate and it's lab coats. And I'm like, all right, Nick, whatever, I'll join. And 140,000 members later, it is one of the most powerful groups out there in the social media space for real estate agents. But what Nick will tell you is that through social media engagement, his business has skyrocketed and his business has grown. So join that group and learn how he does it, right? Join Command Your Conversion, which is another one of his groups, and learn how they do it. Lots of different ways to use social, but it will generate opportunities for you and you service those leads when they come along, right? The big four that in Ignite we're going to focus on in prospecting is going to be door knocking when it's available, open houses, social media, and what was the third one that I said? Agent-to-agent referrals. Those are the big four that we're focusing on here at Ignite. Lots of other things. You saw that list of 10, and there's probably more than 10. But this is a really good starting point. People have lived before us, and we've learned from them. Agents who focus on these approaches first build their business faster and bigger than agents who focus on other lead generation approaches. And so that's why we share it with you, right? 80-20 rule comes into play on social media, meaning don't just be business, 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 right? What we know is that if you had a friend who was an accountant and every time you talk to that friend, the only thing they talked to you about was accounting, you would stop wanting to hear from that friend. People need to get to know you. People do business with people that they'd like and trust. And so 80% of what you share on social media should be about you, the person, not necessarily about you, the business person. And you decide what boundaries you want to have to, you know, keep your private life private. But social media is social. And if you're not able to share who you are and what you're about in that channel, you're just not going to be able to use that channel effectively. I have no problems with folks sometimes deciding to not put pictures of their children or whatever. Many times, I'll share this. My wife works in the mental health world, and she does not have her own social media accounts because she doesn't want necessarily her client base to necessarily know all the ins and outs about who she is and where she is and what she does. And so most of the time she goes in as me, right? If people are on social media and they're sending messages and thinking that they're talking to me, 90 times out of 100, it's my wife using my account. But 20% of the time, it should probably be business. 80% is about personal. Get people to know who you are and what you're doing. And then we're going to have some business related posts as well. The idea is this, you know, find the channels that work for you. 80% of what you're going to find is 80% of the agents get 90% of their business from just a handful of prospecting sources. So explore a little bit and find out which ones are good for you. But then once you've got a few, really, really double down and master those, right? That's the game. And the way to figure it out is you just track where your business is coming from, where your leads are coming from. You know, I got 10 leads from door knocking. I got 7 from Sphere of Influence. I got 2 from agent referrals. And then you rank order those and you prioritize and say, okay, look, you know what? Looks like social media, door knocking, and calls to my sphere, and maybe my newsletter was kind of my strongest group. And I'm just going to kind of thin that down to just focus on the 2 big ones, right? If you know where your leads are coming from, if you source those, and then you prioritize and see which ones are working, and then you focus on the one where you get the most volume, that's a really good strategy, right? For me, hands down, I told you it was open houses. Once I recognized that most of my viable leads were coming through the open house channel, that became my focus. And I did multiple open houses every single week. And so once you know that, you need to develop your own plan, right? What's your plan going to be? How are you going to leverage those activities? How are you going to put those into your GPS tool, your prioritized activities? How are you going to time block and carve out some space in your day and in your week and in your month to make sure that those most important things get done, right? So that's the skinny, the quick and dirty on prospecting. We're going to unpack a lot of other prospecting techniques later on in Ignite and into the next course, which is the lead gen course. But I'm looking for folks just to give a couple of ahas today. You know, I'm always going to ask. We'll get into marketing more on Wednesday. But Any ahas, anything that you're hearing differently for the first time today, or something that you saw that maybe was something that you're not doing that you think maybe you'd like to start doing? Anything like that that anybody can unmute for? I see the chat box light up, so let me see who said what there. Using command for referral connections, Rick. I was hoping that that was the one. I spent a lot of time showing you how to do that by design, because I think that in the beginning, if you can partner with strong agents in complementary markets, specifically look for people moving into your area and get into rapport with the agents who are representing the sellers who are moving out of that area. That's a really smart thing to do. I would do that today, right? Anybody else? Going once, going twice.
I would definitely second the referral connections in command. I didn't know that screen was actually that involved.
Yeah, Devin, it's buried in there. It is a hidden little treasure. And the thing that you have to understand is this. It evolves, meaning that that's based on the referral patterns from the agents who are putting their transactions into command. And so when you think about it, we're kind of relatively new up in this part of the world in terms of putting our transactions into command. And so as we do more and more of it, as all the agents in our region get on board with command and use it this way, there's only going to be more data there, which is going to make those referral patterns more accurate, right? And so it's just going to get better. But yeah, it's pretty involved, and it's a really cool thing. And I'd encourage you guys to play with it and start to build out your referral relationships, right now. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. It's just a little bit before 12. We're going to be back on Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to talk about marketing. And again, it's prospecting based, right? But it's marketing enhanced. And so thinking about your marketing message and thinking about your marketing approach and what you're going to do to enhance your prospecting efforts through marketing is where we're going to go on Wednesday. So I hope you can come back and join us.